Howdy folks, I'm Brian and here's some Reddit. Our first story is titled, Am I a Jerk for Lashing Out After My Husband Ruined the Food I Prepared for Our Guests? I'm a 26-year-old female and my husband is a 33-year-old male, Mike, and we've been married for a year now. He doesn't cook. He is bad at it. His cooking is the worst, despite learning about it from books and YouTube videos and me teaching him. It just never works. Every time he steps a foot into the kitchen, it turns into a mess. I don't know how. He doesn't know how either. Maybe because he's constantly busy with work. He's a police officer and is used to fast food. But he's good at other things. We've agreed that I will handle the cooking. He handles chores. Everything was going well. However, recently, he's been getting involved with my cooking, basically making comments about what ingredients I should and shouldn't use, and I try to take it under consideration, but only if he's being reasonable. Lately, he's been waiting for when I prepare dinner or lunch, and then sneaks in and adds extra salt and pepper and spices and other ingredients that completely ruins the meal. First, it was a mystery to me, had me questioning myself, why I added too much salt or spices. He admitted he was the one adding extra ingredients and messing up my cooking. The meals are no longer edible. I've told him not to get involved with something he doesn't have experience with. I've basically been eating out for a week because of him. Last night, we had my family visiting. I took the entire day preparing meals. He helped out by going to the grocery store. I noticed he bought stuff from the grocery store I wasn't allowed to see. I figure it's probably some snacks. As we were about to eat dinner, my mom and dad suddenly looked grossed out and said they couldn't eat because the food had too much salt in it. I was confused and asked them to try another dish, which was too spicy for them to eat. My dad had an upset stomach and almost threw up. He has high blood pressure and salt wasn't good for him. Mike kept acting confused. My mom and dad couldn't eat anything I made. I knew Mike had something to do with it. My parents left and I felt ashamed. I asked Mike, and then I blew up after he admitted that he went behind my back to add ingredients that he thought were going to make the food better. I lashed out at him. I told him he ruined my work after spending hours and made my parents feel uncomfortable, adding too much salt, knowing that my dad has high blood pressure. He argued that he was just trying to help and thought the food would be better, so I shouldn't yell at him. And my parents didn't say anything, so it wasn't that bad. I told him he shouldn't have done this, but he refused to acknowledge that he did anything wrong, then went out to meet his friends for dinner. Alright, OP. I mean, things generally shouldn't escalate to yelling and whatnot, but you've been dealing with this for a week and he's continuing to sabotage your meals. The thing is that if he wants the food to be saltier or spicier or any of these other things, that's when you can season the food afterwards. There's pepper shakers and salt shakers for a reason here. He is, I don't know, it's seemingly intentionally sabotaging your food here. He can't realize, you had a discussion about this. You said, hey, please stop sabotaging my food. And then when your parents came over, he sabotaged your food. This seems intentional. I mean, it's one thing pleading ignorance if you do something and the first time and you're like, oh, hey, I thought I was helping you. Even though, to be quite honest, I don't know how you could possibly plead ignorance in this case. If you go behind someone's back and season the food differently than how they've prepared it, then you're changing their seasoning. So We'll just sweep it aside and say, your poor ignorant husband didn't realize the first time he did this that he was ruining the food or could ruin the food. But all the successive times after that, he knew and he continued to do this. I don't even know if this is about the whole cooking stuff at this point in time. It just seems really bizarre and weird that he would continue to do this. I would talk to your parents. I would explain to them what happened here. you need to explain to your parents that you weren't intentionally trying to poison your dad here. Like, when medical stuff is on the line, like, there's a certain level of, like, yeah, you don't want to throw someone under the bus, but he did this on purpose too, so it's really a hard situation in that respect. Like, sometimes someone needs to be thrown under a bus. You don't do it often, and there's not really a good reason often to throw someone under the bus, but occasionally there is. I don't know. What do you folks think? I mean, is this a good situation for her to throw them under the bus and explain to their parents, hey, I wasn't trying to poison you, Dad. I like you. I don't know. Not the jerk, he's repeatedly and dependably ruining every meal he touches. If he wants more salt, he can add it to his portion at the table. There is no universe in which he's being helpful, and how he thinks he is a mystery. Not to be that person, but can he taste and smell okay? Edited ad. Oh my goodness, folks, we did it. It's gaslighting. It's real, honest to God gaslighting. And OP replies, I have no idea what his problem is. He keeps saying, it's better this way, and it's better that way. It's tiring, and he doesn't seem to know what he wants. Yeah, I mean, this is actually gaslighting, because the whole him changing the food behind your back and making you think that you were going crazy and then not even fessing up to your parents, this is gaslighting. And I mean, it's really bad behavior on his part. Yeah, it sounds like he's getting a perverse kick out of this. Scary stuff. So first he denied it, then he downplayed it as trying to help. Then he claimed it wasn't a big deal because the parents were polite and refused to admit fault, and then finally left OP alone to eat dinner without her. The fact that his apology is a near textbook example of the narcissistic's prayer is very concerning. That didn't happen, and if it did, it wasn't bad, and if it was, it's not that big of a deal, and if it is, it's not my fault, and if it was, I didn't mean it, and if I did, you deserved it. This person has a pretty good point. All right, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Not Wanting the Baby to Sleep in My Room? I live in Dallas, and we're going through a rough time right now because of this winter storm. My family's house had to deal with rolling blackouts for the past few days. But yesterday is the day that it looked like our power was back on for good, which led my mom to inviting our neighbors to stay with us. For whatever reason, their power hasn't been on for the past few days, and my mom invited them to stay with us even without consulting anyone else in the family. These neighbors have 3 kids, one of which is a baby who's only a few months old, and out of nowhere, my mom told me that the baby and its crib were going to go in my room. That made me mad, since she didn't even ask me how I felt about it. But she wouldn't listen to my protests. She never does. Last night, I was trying to get to sleep, but the baby was being noisy. She wasn't crying. She was just making random baby noises, and I couldn't deal with it. She eventually fell asleep, and so did I. But then she started crying, which woke me up. The parents came in and started consoling the baby back to sleep. But I was still up when the baby woke up again and started making more baby noises. I decided to take action of my own. I ended up moving the crib into my sister's room, and when she started crying again, it was definitely better for me. I'm sure it was, OP. I'm sure it was really much better for you. But I heard a bunch of confusion in the hallway. The baby's mom was wondering why the crib was in my sister's room, and I just pretended to be asleep. But my mom slammed the door and opened it immediately and called me out. This led to a giant argument between me and her in the hallway. I was arguing that it's not fair that the baby sleeps in my room, but once again, my mom already decided that she was in the right and not to be questioned. Then the neighbor's other kid woke up, and the entire house was watching me and my mom scream at each other. Things eventually calmed down, and the baby went back in my room. But once she was asleep, I pushed the crib into the bathroom, and she wasn't discovered until the morning when the baby's dad found her in there. Now they're mad at me. Yeah, that's why. I don't know. But I'm mad at them and my mom. My mom keeps calling me a brat, and the neighbors have already scolded me for what I did. So I retorted by calling them bad parents, who want to pawn off their baby on me instead of taking care of her themselves. Now my mom is blaming me for the current tension in the household. Who's the bad guy here? Well, OP, you're not doing yourself any favors here. If they were really pawning off the responsibility, then they wouldn't have come down to take care of the baby. Like, this, your argument doesn't even make any sense. Alright, OP, the thing is that you folks are in a bad situation, and your mom extended a helping hand to your neighbors who have an infant and wanted to help them out during a catastrophic storm. And you are being a complete jerk about this. Like, you're not the only person in the universe here, and I know that you might think you are, but other people matter too. Like, they matter. Just because you're uncomfortable for an emergency situation, it doesn't mean that the world is ending here. It seems really kind of bad of you to do this, and then putting the kid in the bathroom as well, like, that was just completely uncalled for. Really, I think you should have just volunteered your bedroom up to the parents and then slept on the couch. That would have taken care of a lot of issues. Then you would have had a good night's sleep, or as good of a night of sleep as you could have on the couch, and they could have been able to stay with the baby. So, yeah, I think you're acting pretty terrible in this situation. Sorry. You're the jerk. You're 24 years old. Your parents do not have to provide a roof over your head. Do you pay rent? Your city is in crisis. Your mom is helping a family with children so they don't freeze. You can handle a baby in your room for a couple of nights during an emergency. Exactly. Holy cow, I missed that detail. I thought OP was no more than 12 to 15 at the absolute most. Yeah, they sound like a spoiled brat. You're the jerk, and it's an emergency that will soon be over. You're acting like they moved a baby in with you permanently. You are so selfish, and you should be ashamed. Yes. While I agree that OP is being a jerk, the parents should bear some responsibility. The baby should have been in the same room as the parents. What kind of parents would you be if you put your child in the care of someone who did not volunteer or agree to the task? Desperate times call for desperate measures. And I think OP should have given up his room. I don't know what the situation was and why the parents ended up not being able to be in the same room as the baby. I'm guessing there's some logistical reason for it. So, I don't know. Here are a couple comments from OP. Me and my sister have already shared rooms for a few months due to a different situation. I'm not going down that path again. OP, again, this is kind of temporary. And some info about where the parents slept. My parents slept in their room and the neighbor slept in there with them on an air mattress. And I know for a fact that the room is big enough to add just one crib in there with them. So I'll allow these comments to stand on their own. I do think that OP is being a jerk here, and I do think that the babies should have been in with the parents. But I also don't know the logistics of everything here. Alright, our last letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Ordering Off the Kids Menu as a Teenager? Yesterday, I went out to a restaurant, which isn't very often nowadays, but it happened. I didn't want something where I'd be taking home leftovers. And I know whenever I'm out there would usually be leftovers because portion sizes are too big for me most of the time. I ordered a pasta dish that was on the kids menu. It's usually for kids 12 and under, but I look kind of young, so I didn't think it would matter. But the fact that I wasn't here alone gave it away that I wasn't under 12. The waitress quickly said that I was ordering from the kids menu, and I told her that I meant to do that. She must have thought I did it by accident, so she gave me a weird look and said it's only for kids. I told her I was a kid, which wasn't a lie because I am only 18. She said that she didn't believe me because I look like a teenager and said that I have to order from the regular menu. I told her I just look older than I am. We stopped arguing about it and she took my order. When it came around time that I had to pay, I made the mistake of paying with my card instead of cash since most kids don't have cards. And she noticed almost immediately and said that I lied to her and that no kid has a card and would go out without their parents. I told her I didn't get what the big deal was. I am a kid. She then got her manager over here because she wanted to charge me for the regular meal instead of the kids' menu price of $7, so that I would be charged $16 instead, which I could afford, but I'd rather pay the $7. The manager ended up deciding that I shouldn't be charged since I already had the kids' meal, so it wouldn't make sense to be charged more than what I already ate. When the manager left, the waitress told me to grow up. I gave her a bad tip because she made a dramatic scene over the kids' meal. I don't understand what the problem is with an 18-year-old ordering from a kid's meal. Maybe I'm missing something here. The next day, a post on Facebook popped up on my feed because I follow the restaurant's page, and the post was not made specifically at me, but I knew it was meant for me. Remember to keep the kids menu to the kiddies, folks. Like literal kids, okay? It was definitely no coincidence that this was posted just hours after I had been at the restaurant, and I knew they had aimed it at me. I did something that I knew I wasn't supposed to do, and then people called me out for it, passive-aggressively, maybe. But now I'm feeling upset that I was called out for this thing that I did that I wasn't supposed to do. Why am I being so put upon? OP, come on, OP. You're 18. You're a legal adult. You're not a kid. Don't do this. Like, okay. It's one thing to order from the kids menu, and it's another thing to basically continue to lie about it and stuff like that. Like, it's fine. I think that the people made too big of a fuss out of you ordering from the kids menu. I do. Like, sure, you order from the kids menu. I really, though, think that if there was a comparable meal on the adults menu and you just chose not to do it, then that's, again, kind of where you're having the mistake here. Like, there was no need to order from the kids menu if there was a comparable meal on the adults menu. So, like, if you, for instance, if you're with a group of friends, for instance, and a group of friends, they want to go to a restaurant and there's nothing on the menu that you like, and so you want to order like mozzarella sticks from the kids menu or something like that. That, I think, is a little bit more of a gray area because, like, sure, like, maybe you don't like the food, this isn't really a trip that you wanted to make, but you also don't want to, like, cut out. All right. Order the mozzarella sticks from the kids menu, but explain the situation. Probably the waitress is going to be, or waiter or waitress are going to be understanding. This was kind of a flagrant, like, oh, I'm going to order off the kids menu, and then I'm going to pretend I'm a kid, and then I'm going to lie about it and continue to get continue to get butthurt when people call me out for it. So yeah, no, I think that you're the jerk here. Except it was a lie because at 18, you're legally an adult. Acting like you're 12 doesn't make you 12. You're the jerk. If the menu says 12 and under, it means 12 and under. You're the jerk. You should have been honest from the start and let your server know that you wanted a small portion instead of lying and saying that you were a kid. You're 18. That's a legal adult. The kids menu was clearly marked for 12 and under. Restaurants are generally willing to accommodate their clients, and they could have either offered you a half portion or offered you the kids menu or come up with something else. Yeah, exactly like what I was saying. Talk to your wait staff and be like, hey, I just have this problem. Can you please help me? Generally, they're not going to want to make a big fuss out of it because they want you to be happy. But it crosses a line when you start lying about things. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving me a like. If you didn't, consider giving me a dislike. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.